You know, I've been in the fashion industry for nearly 2 decades. So for nearly 20 years. And I was in the Spice Girls, a time that I'm so proud of and so thankful for. But that was for a 4-year period in my life.
Yeah.
And I've been so defined by that 4-year period that it really was, for nearly 2 decades, me keeping my head down, focusing on the product, making sure that I don't put anything out there, whether it's a simple piece of clothing or an eyeliner, until I truly believe it is the best in class. And fighting those preconceptions for nearly 2 decades.
From the dizzying pop star heights of the late 90s to the high fashion runways of London and Paris, Victoria Beckham has lived a public life defined by reinvention and scrutiny. Her journey has been visible, chronicled, and carefully curated for decades. But now the curtain is being pulled back. In the new 3-part documentary, Victoria Beckham, she opens up like never before, revealing the pressures of fame, the internal battles, and the relentless drive behind the brand. From Posh Spice to global obsession. But what's often forgotten is Victoria wasn't the loudest, the funniest, or even the obvious fan favorite. Yet she became arguably the most iconic, the one with quiet presence, with precision, Posh. Even in the chaos of platform heel pop anthems, she was calculating. That unnerved people. They assumed coldness when there was simply discipline. And while the band's branding campaign ran on the explosive fuel of girl power, Victoria was already thinking about something bigger than slogans. She observed the machinery of media and fame, not as a participant, but as an architect in training. Long before celebrity branding was common vocabulary, she was building one, studying the camera as much as performing for it. The jokes about her never smiling weren't wrong, but they also weren't the insult people thought. They were proof she knew exactly what she was doing. The woman the media got spectacularly wrong. Victoria Beckham didn't just marry one of the most famous men on earth, she married into a storm. And overnight, she became the media's favorite caricature. She was labeled a wag, a term uniquely designed to belittle. Tabloids crafted her as frosty, demanding, and a fashion snob with a designer bag permanently welded to her arm. They mocked her weight, her body language, her posture. They turned her into an easy headline, an avatar, not a human. Misinterpretation became insulation. If the world wanted Posh, the ice queen, the unattainable fashion automaton, she let them have her. Meanwhile, she turned that persona into a shield. Because while tabloids were busy writing punchlines, Victoria Beckham was quietly becoming one of the most powerful businesswomen in fashion. What the public couldn't see, was a woman enduring war-level media aggression and learning to turn the bullets into diamonds. Building a fashion empire the industry didn't want her to have.
For me, I'm just being very honest. And my silhouette is something that has been with me for 2 decades. You know, I created a seemingly very simple silhouette 2 decades ago. And you can still see that now in my collections. You know, that silhouette has evolved and continues to evolve season on season.
When Victoria launched her fashion label in 2008, the fashion establishment braced for disaster. A former pop star turned footballer's wife entering luxury design? To critics, it was the punchline of a meme, not the beginning of a serious house. But she didn't go for hype, she went for obsession. She didn't come crashing in with celebrity collaborations or viral gimmicks. She built like a purist. Every stitch was a thesis, every silhouette a rejection of her expected. Editors finally had to admit it, she was good, very good. Her debut collection received standing ovations, not because of fame, but because it was bulletproof. Over a decade later, Victoria Beckham is not a vanity project, it's a legitimate high-fashion brand, respected in the same rooms she was once mocked for trying to enter. The private strength behind public composure. A common misconception about Victoria is that her coolness equals distance. In reality, it's just discipline. Her life required a level of emotional artillery most people will never understand. Relentless paparazzi, headlines dissecting everything from her weight to her marriage, accusations, rumors, global humiliation attempts, and never a breakdown, never a tabloid-fueled meltdown. What the world read as ice was really armor. But behind the armor is extreme warmth. Fiercely protective, wickedly funny, and dry beyond belief. Her children describe her as loud, affectionate, and deeply present. David Beckham often jokes that she's the emotional center of their family. Her closest friends confirm it. She's not cold, she's strategic. And if there's one thing she's mastered, it's control of narrative. She never gives the press what they want, she gives them what she wants them to repeat. The documentary that finally let her speak. The recent surge in renewed fascination with Victoria Beckham isn't random, it's earned. The documentary series gave her something she never really had before, editorial control over her own narrative, but delivered through unfiltered honesty rather than reinvention. She didn't try to appear softer, she didn't fake vulnerability. She allowed the reality to show, the loneliness of fame, the brutality of British tabloids, the fear of being publicly humiliated again and again, and the private strength it took to cultivate absolute self-governance. For the first time, viewers saw her laugh freely, curse heavily, show relentless work ethic, and most impactfully, admit to the toll. The woman who was always 10 steps ahead. What's becoming clear is Victoria Beckham has never been too late to anything, only early. She understood personal branding before influencers existed. She understood luxury restraint before the fashion world fatigued from maximalist logos. She understood narrative ownership before celebrities figured out how to bypass media entirely. Her silence was a long game. What culture thought was an aloof fashion android was actually someone studying leverage. While tabloids thought they were humiliating her, she was converting headlines into capital. While people mocked her seriousness, she was building infrastructure. Why the world is reframing her now. Culture finally caught up to what Victoria was executing all along. We live in a time where strategy is admired and taste is currency, where silence can be louder than spectacle. Suddenly, the qualities she was criticized for, control, restraint, intensity, are seen as power, not arrogance. People are tired of performative oversharing. Victoria never overshared. She never begged to be understood. She simply stayed consistent until the world evolved enough to understand her language. A career built on precision, not spectacle. For much of her public life, Victoria Beckham has been easy to misunderstand because she's never played by the rules of conventional celebrity. Unlike many of her peers, she's rarely chased attention, she's managed it. Instead, she moved deliberately into fashion, not as a collaborator, but a founder. Her choice of uncompromising minimalism in an era defined by maximalist logos felt counterintuitive at the time, but industry reaction gradually shifted from skepticism to respect. What began as a celebrity experiment evolved into a respected design house shown on major fashion week schedules. The discipline behind the persona. What has become clearer in recent public reflections is just how much of Victoria's public image has been the product of strategic restraint, not emotional distance. Her refusal to publicly react, even during periods of intense tabloid pressure, was not disengagement. It was a decision to deny the media the emotional volatility they were trying to provoke. People close to her describe her as engaged, humorous, and deeply operational. Words that contrast sharply with the aloof figure many assumed her to be. The disconnect wasn't accidental. When performing under extreme scrutiny, she treated visibility as risk rather than validation. Why her story resonates. Victoria Beckham's rise is being reinterpreted in a cultural climate that now values intentionality over visibility. The public has grown wary of overexposure and performance-driven vulnerability. But in contrast, her approach, selective, measured, and often silent, reads less as aloofness and more as emotional governance. Her trajectory shows a broader shift in how influence is understood. Success is increasingly tied to consistency, taste, and brand stewardship, all areas where she's shown unusual longevity. Younger audiences, particularly those fluent in the mechanics of personal branding, now see her less as celebrity and more as a strategist who anticipated the demands of a modern public life years ahead of its time. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of Victoria? Let us know in the comments section below.